Hi guys, Mr. Fouch here. Today I'm going to do a demonstration on how to get started with carving your plaster sculpture. So let's go ahead and just get to it. First of all, we start these, we don't want to be too locked into exactly what the final product is going to look like. I'd rather have you kind of explore this and work into it, and eventually it's going to turn into something that might surprise you. So don't get too locked into it's going to have to be this thing or that thing or look exactly this way. Let it kind of develop as you carve. But you may want to think a little bit about what general direction you're going to try to take this sculpture. So let me show you a couple of examples that just might give you an idea of where you could take it. So one thing that I like to talk about sometimes is just different kinds of shapes or forms. And if you look at this example here, I would call this more of an organic form. And what that means is basically it has more wavy lines, wavy shapes. It just kind of looks like something that you would see in nature, maybe like some kind of rock or fossil or coral or something like that. It just has that kind of natural feel to it. Also notice the negative space. We talk about that. So some of these holes can be considered negative space. Then on the other hand, we have this one, which has got a little more, I would call this a little more of a geometric feel. See, it kind of looks like stairs. It's got more straight lines going on it, a lot of rectangular shapes cut out of it. So this would be more geometric. And so you can kind of think a little bit about that as far as what direction you're going to take your sculpture. Not that you have to say, oh, mine's geometric, mine's organic, but it just helps to know about those things as you're getting started. And sometimes a sculpture can be both at the same time. So anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and get started on this mold. Now the first thing we want to keep in our mind too is that the biggest learning target of this project is that it should not look like a cup anymore when it's done. So we want to take enough cuts out of this so it really does not even resemble that cup anymore. So I've got a long way to go on this. So what I'm going to do is, thinking about those shapes and forms that we talked about, I'm just going to start by drawing a shape with my fettling knife on here and just begin cutting that out. So I'm just going to go with more of an organic shape. And I'm just going to draw on that with my knife. It's called a fettling knife. And just kind of create a shape. You might even want to just kind of let your mind wander and see where that goes. So I made this, it's kind of just like a curve type of thing. It kind of goes up on top too. And then I'm going to take this fettling knife and I'm just going to kind of gently scoop away with it. I got my finger right next to the tip of the knife. I'm not way back here jabbing at it all crazy. I'm just kind of gently removing that plaster a little at a time. This is like a little by little digging a hole. It's not something that we do. You're going to try to carve this all out in one period. We're just going to slowly carve stuff away and just see what happens. So yeah, I'm just removing pieces of plaster and just kind of taking away a shape. So for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to spend a long time working on this. You can see how you can kind of peel it away too. But anyway, I'm starting to get that hole dug out, as you can see. Now we do have these tools as well, different kinds of, I call this like a loop tool. And what you can do with that is just take that tool and you can gently kind of smooth and carve away and kind of shape it. Now with these tools, I want to just remind you, they're not made for you to like gouge real hard into it because they will just break. They're made of wood. So we want to kind of gently skim with these tools, not put as much strength as you can into that because it will just break. Any large areas or harder areas, what I would suggest to do is just kind of chip away with the tip of this knife, because that is pretty strong and sturdy. So what you should do, once you've gotten a shape cut out, it doesn't look like much right now, it's still very much a cup. But what I want to do is I want to go, now I did that, and now I'm going to go somewhere else and make a different type of shape. But I'm going to kind of keep with the rhythm, with the flow of this sculpture. So I'm going to make something that looks kind of similar, doesn't have to be the same, but a similar type of shape on there. And then once again, I'll just start removing that. And what's going to happen is, as you move around the sculpture, what you will find is it will start changing more and more into something different. And then you start to kind of react, and it starts to take on a life and a shape of its own. Of course, I'll be there in class to kind of guide you, give you tips, give you suggestions. But this right here is a good way to start. Two things I'm going to tell you to avoid when you do this. One, the Swiss cheese. Now, it is fine to have holes and negative space in your final piece, okay? But we don't want to be taking our knife and just grinding it through and making a whole bunch of holes, because then it's going to look like a cup with a bunch of holes in it. And what we really want to do instead of that is change that shape, change that form into something different. The other thing I want you to really try to avoid is just working too fast. If you're gonna just carve it real quick, and what happens is just whittles down to nothing. So we want to be kind of mindful and thoughtful as we work. Yes, we need to get rid of a lot to change it, but we don't want to destroy it so there's nothing left at all. So yeah, you want to avoid those types of things. But besides that, there's endless possibilities for what this could turn out like. So I hope that helps you get started. I think it will. And just enjoy the carving process and let this develop. Don't be too uptight about it. And what's going to happen is we're going to have a lot of different variety of cool looking sculptures in this class. All right. Thanks a lot.